Hey everyone and welcome. Today we are going to dig into one of the most critical topics in finance right now, how companies can actually get a handle on the financial risks from climate change. We'll be using the framework from the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. That's a mouthful, so we'll just call it the TCFD as our guide. So, how does it all work? Let's get into it.
And to really kick things off, this quote from Michael Bloomberg, who chairs the TCFD, says it all. This isn't some far-off 50-year problem we're talking about. It's here, it's now. And frankly, this is the wake-up call the financial world has been needing.
So here's what's on deck today. First, we'll talk about the core problem, what we're calling the unpriced risk. Then we'll introduce the TCFD as the map to navigate it. We're going to spend most of our time on the risk management radar. That's the real engine room of this process. Then we'll look at how you plug this into a business and what the whole point of this is, building resilience. All right, first up, the unpriced risk. The whole point of financial markets is to price risk. That's what they do. But the thing is, for so long, climate change was this huge invisible variable that just wasn't being factored in, and that's how you get a massive financial storm brewing just over the horizon. And this right here, this is the heart of the issue. Without good, clear, comparable information, investors are basically flying blind. I mean, how are you supposed to make smart decisions about where to put your money if you can't tell which companies are building a boat for the storm and which ones are just hoping it won't rain? So let's just get a quick definition out of the way so we're all on the same page. When we say climate-related risk, we're just talking about the potential for climate change to negatively hit a company's bottom line. It's a big, broad idea, but thankfully, the TCFD helps us break it down. And this is where it gets really useful. The TCFD splits these risks into two big buckets. First, you have transition risks. Think of these as the risks that come from us changing how we do things. So, a new carbon tax, electric car is taking over, a new technology that makes your old factory obsolete, that's all transition risk. Then you have physical risks. These are the risks from the climate itself changing. The actual hurricanes, floods, and heat waves.
And the TCFD knows even deeper on those physical risks, which is super helpful. They make this really important distinction. You've got acute risks. These are the sudden shocks, the big events, like a hurricane that wipes out a facility. They're sharp, they're immediate. But then you have chronic risks. These are the slow burn problems. Things like sea levels gradually rising or droughts getting worse and worse every year. One's a punch to the jaw, the other is a slow squeeze. Both are incredibly damaging financially.
So, you have this incredibly complex world of risks. How on earth do you make sense of it all? Well, that is exactly why the TCFD framework was created. It's the map designed to help everyone chart a course through this new territory. Yeah, the Financial Stability Board put this task force together with one big mission: create a standard way for companies to talk about their climate risks. And the magic words here are consistent and comparable. The whole point was to create a common language so an investor can look at company A and company B and actually understand the difference. Now, the framework itself is built on 4 pillars. You've got governance, which is about who's in charge, strategy, which is how it fits into the business plan, metrics and targets, which is how you measure it, and the one we're really going to zero in on today, risk management, the actual nuts and bolts of how a company finds and deals with these threats.
Okay, let's get to the main event. The best way to think about this is, like a company has this high-tech radar system, it's constantly scanning the horizon for anything coming its way. And the TCFD lays out a really clear 3-step process for how that radar should work.
And here they are, the 3 core steps. It's a really logical flow, right? First, you got to find and understand the risks. Second, you have to decide what you're going to do about them. And third, and this is key, you have to make sure this whole process is woven into the DNA of the company, not just some one-off project.
So step 1 is that radar sweep. This is where a company has to describe its process for actually spotting those transition and physical risks we talked about. And we're not talking about generic stuff here. It's about finding the specific blips on your screen, the exact policy change, the specific type of weather event that could seriously impact your business. Okay, so your radar pings. You've got a blip on the screen. Now what? You can't just sit there and watch it get closer. Step 2 is all about deciding on your plan of action. The company has to explain its process for managing these risks. Basically, how do they decide to respond to protect the business?
So what are the options? Well, you've got a few classic moves in the playbook. You can mitigate it, like building a seawall to reduce flood damage. You can transfer it. The classic example is buying insurance to shift the financial hit to someone else. You can formally accept it, which means you see the risk, but you decide it's too small or too expensive to do anything about. Or you can control it by putting new rules or tech in place to contain it. Choosing the right play here is the whole game.
This brings us to the final, and honestly, maybe the most important step in the whole process. Because you can have the best radar system in the world, but if the captain isn't listening to the warnings, it's totally useless. This can't be just another siloed department.
And this is a question that a lot of companies get stuck on, right? Do we create a new climate risk team? Does this belong to the sustainability folks? Where does it fit?
And the TCFD is super clear on this. It's not separate. It has to be integrated into the company's existing overall risk management system. Climate risk isn't some weird, special type of risk. It's a factor that drives all the normal risks: credit risk, market risk, operational risk. It just has to be part of the main dashboard.
So why go through all this trouble? What's the end game here? Well, that brings us to our final section, the ultimate payoff. It's about moving beyond just dodging bullets to actually building something stronger.
And this is the big picture. Look, the goal of the TCFD isn't just to make companies write more reports or tick some compliance box. It's about fundamentally changing how business gets done, how we invest our money, how we build companies that can actually thrive as the world changes.
We'll end with one more quote from Michael Bloomberg that just nails it. Transparency isn't the goal, it's the tool. The real goal is making markets work better, which in turn leads to a more stable and resilient economy for every single one of us. That's why this stuff matters.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. When you really apply this TCFD lens, it forces you to look in the mirror and ask a tough but absolutely crucial question. It's not just about surviving the next storm. It's about building a strategy that is truly ready for the new world that's on the horizon. Thanks for tuning in.